guys, we are back for more paranormal. We are talking Believers, season 1, episode 5. But before we get into it, if you have not subscribed, please help me grow my channel by subscribing, hitting the notification bell, hitting the thumbs up, and sharing this video. Now, on to the show. We're following a lady named Georgia Kramer. She lives in Warner, New Hampshire, and this takes place in April of 2007. So Georgia has just gone through a divorce. She's looking for a new property to purchase. She has flipped houses in the past, so she's decided that she wants to get a project, something to keep her mind off of her divorce and something to propel her into the future. She's starting all over, and this old, beautiful Victorian mansion would be just the perfect project. You know me, honey, I'm scared of everything. I say no ma'am, okay? Don't buy old stuff. I'm afraid already, no ma'am. She says before she starts her renovation work on the house, she takes all sorts of pictures because she wants to be able to show the new owners when she sells it the before and after, so that they can see how much work she put into this restoration of this Victorian home. 2 weeks later, as soon as she starts working in her living room, she said things started to take a turn. So she's working in the living room and she notices the wallpaper starts bulging. But she says the wallpaper doesn't just start bulging, it actually starts moving. No. She says then she felt or sensed something behind her, and she felt like it was breathing down her neck. So she grabs her camera to take a picture. Now listen, she says that she had spent her entire savings on this house, so she couldn't run. Me, personally, I would have ran, and I would have tried to find a buyer for this place and live in a hotel until I could sell this house. I would do anything not to be there. That was too much. And the photo, way too much. She says that it was a shadow, but it had more substance and that it scared her. But she said she had been working so hard, spending so many hours working on the renovation, that she thought that maybe she was just seeing things, or maybe her imagination was getting the best of her. No ma'am. No ma'am, it's in the picture. Okay, you see the picture? No. It's time to go. Time to go. Georgia stays, and the next week, one of her high school friends named Alex, who was recently going through a divorce, had come to town for work, and she invited him to stay there with her. She says that she takes a room in the back of the house, and he takes a room in the front of the house, and because the place is such a big place, you know, it's an old school mansion, she pulls out some old walkie-talkies so that they could communicate with each other throughout the house. Now, he's in his room, and he sees, like, shadows. And he gets on the walkie-talkie and he says, "Hey, Georgia, I thought you were downstairs." And she said, "I am downstairs." So him being an old cop, he pulls out his gun and decides that he is going to search the house because he thinks someone has gotten into the house. And you know, he just wants to make sure that he and Georgia are safe.
What are you doing?
Damn it, Georgia! Did you not see that?
And then we heard a voice. Disembodied voice of a young girl pleading for help. We both heard it, clear as day.
There's something not right here.
Did it look like this?
I showed Alex the photo. He said he saw the same figure.
Alex looks at Georgia and he says, "Something is not right here. We need to leave." Now, Alex is my kind of people. Yeah. He says we need to leave. Georgia tells him no. She needs to stay. And she says that Alex gets mad at her because she doesn't want to leave. Personally, I am with Alex. I would have asked her once or twice to leave with me. If she didn't want to leave, I would have gotten my car and left. I would have slept outside. I will not be back in your house, ma'am. I mean, that is creepy. Both of us have seen shadow figure. And we both just heard a little girl asking for help, and there's nobody else in this house with us. It's time to go. I would have told Georgia, here's your walkie-talkie, honey. Bye. The producer asked her, why didn't you leave when Alex left? And she says she had too much invested in the house, too much money, and she couldn't walk away from it. She had to get these renovations done, and she had to sell that property, and she needed to get it done ASAP. 3 days later, Georgia walks through the house and the basement door opens on its own. She closes it back, but then she starts to hear voices. It's a little girl's voice, and the girl sounded desperate. She was desperate for help. Georgia said she was extremely afraid, but she needed to find out what was going on with this voice. Why was she so sad, and what was going on? And she said it had to be in the basement, so she goes down in the basement. Nothing good ever happens in the basement. No, we don't go down in the basement. But Georgia went down there. She's a lot braver than me. She goes downstairs in the basement and she comes across some records and photos. They hold the secret to this house. Her house is 160 years old. Now see, there's the problem for me. That house is 140 years too old for me to have purchased. That would not have happened to me. I know it sounds ridiculous, but I can't purchase properties that old. She finds out that the house was originally built as an asylum. Then the house was renamed the Warner Training School and used for epileptics, runaways, and the mentally challenged. She said that the house became a dumping ground for unwanted children. She says that in 1921, 19 patients escaped. 59 patients actually died. Patients were being sterilized and lobotomized. And all of this terror, torture, and abuse was happening right there in her house. Again, I would have sold that place for whatever I could get for it, and I would have left. That is way too much pain and torture that has happened in that place. She says that that house was full of pain and grief and suffering. Yeah, no, I'm out. She says that while she's down there in the basement looking at all of these photos and everything, she suddenly gets a vision of this little girl receiving electroshock therapy. And she could feel the fear of all the souls that were abused there, and those feelings flooded her, and the spirits of these patients are trapped in her home, reliving the torture that they went through while they were alive there in that house, over and over again. And she said she just felt that she was being watched the whole time she was in that basement, and she said it was menacing and it felt unsafe. There is no way that I wouldn't have ran out of there. There is no way that I would not have completely broke down into a puddle of sadness and fear. Are you kidding me? I mean, can you imagine all of a sudden you're getting visions and you're feeling all of this pain and agony at once? No, I don't care how much I've invested in this property. I am out. She said that she knew right then it was something in the house that seemed to want her to get out. You think? You think, Georgia? Yeah, I think so too. Listen, at that point, I'm thinking, if you are so hell-bent on staying in this house, finishing those renovations, at least call somebody for some help. I would have left, but if I had to stay there, I would have called Pastor Anderson. Somebody, Bishop Reynolds, Father McDouglas, somebody, get some help. Go to your local church, get you some holy water, some sage, something. Give it a shot, because that is too much. She says that she did the best she could to just shake it off. And over the next 2 weeks, she was able to renovate 8 rooms. Now, honey, listen, I am not a queen of renovations, but if she was able to renovate 8 rooms in 2 weeks, this tells me that she was really trying to hurry up and get the heck up out of there. She was on turbo renovation mode, and I don't blame her. Get out of there, girl. She says that with all the renovations and everything else going on in the house, she completely forgot that her son, his wife, and their baby were coming to stay with her. However, when they got there, she was truly excited to have them. Personally, I could never have forgotten that. With all the craziness going on in that house, there's no way that I would allow my son, his wife, and baby to come visit. If you want to see me, book a hotel. I'll pay for it. but don't come to this house. When her son gets there with his family, he and his wife pick out one of the rooms and place the baby in the baby bed, and they put up their video monitor, fancy video monitors to watch the baby. And they come downstairs. She says that she hadn't told them anything about the house yet, but she was working up to it. So right when she starts to approach the subject, her son looks at the monitor and he's like, "What is that?"
Jordan saw something on the monitor. At that moment, I'm thinking, please don't let it hurt my grandson.
When she goes in there, the shadow is gone. Her and her daughter-in-law take care of the baby. Her daughter-in-law and son want to know what is going on. So she tells them what's happening and they leave the next morning. Now here's the problem with me, honey. No way I would have spent the night there. As soon as she told me what happened and I reviewed that monitor one more time, we are out of here. Where's those baby wipes? We have got to go. No, they stayed overnight and then they left. Georgia says that she wasn't surprised that they left the next morning. Is anybody surprised that they left? I was just surprised they didn't leave that night. Georgia said that she stayed to keep pressing on with the renovations. Personally, if Georgia was my mom, I would have begged her to leave with me. When out of nowhere, in the middle of her working, the power goes off. So she says she's gonna go check the electrical, she's gonna go check the fuse box, and it's in the basement. She goes down to the basement, but before she can even get to the fuse box, she finds a boarded up part of the basement. And Georgia, being inquisitive, pries the boards away from the wall and sticks her hand in there. She finds human bones. Yeah, are you moving yet? She calls the police.
911, what's your emergency?
Can you please send an officer to my house?
What's your emergency, ma'am?
I think I found a body in my basement.
She says that she sits there in silence while they are pulling all of these bones out of the basement. Personally, while the police were in the house, I would have been packing everything I could get in my car. Because when they left, I was gonna leave. These ghosts can have this place. We're done. Somebody get the realtor on the line and sell this place. I can't be in here alone doing renovations. She says it turns out that these bones are from the missing patients. Oh my gosh. Police records show photos of that little girl, the one that she's been hearing, asking for help. She said at that moment she forgot what she really needed from that house. And she thought about all the pain, anguish, and all the suffering that people have gone through in that house. And for her, she said the house started out as strictly a business deal. She said that at that point she decided that she was going to stay there and live in the house. She says that she definitely hopes that one day all of those poor souls can find some peace. So she still lives in the house. She never sold it. She decided to renovate it and live there. There is nothing about that place that says renovate me and live here. Yeah, no. She is way braver than I will ever be. And I want to know, did her son Jordan ever come back to visit? Because I would have never, even after, they came and got all the bones. I cannot. I would not. Whew, Georgia, you strong, girl. The next story follows a lady named Aubrey Clark. Aubrey is a lady who loves to collect things. She says that her husband will never let her loose in an antique store because she will purchase everything she can get her hands on. She says to her, old things have a story to tell about the time and the place. However, you have to be careful about what you get, she says. She lives in Rushville, Indiana, and in the fall of 2010, her and her husband buy an old historic farmhouse with her 2 children, Logan and Michelle. When she says that it was historic, I said, that's a mistake. She said that she was extremely excited when her and her husband had saved up enough money for them to remodel the basement. Now, remodeling on old properties is always a bad sign. She says while they're tearing down a wall in the basement, they find an old antique trunk. And she thought, wow, let's see what's in it. I would have never opened that trunk. I'd have just threw it out. She says that this trunk was not a trunk with treasure inside. She found some old antique toys and two burlap sacks that had eyes and mouth holes in it, as if it was used for a mask. And she said that was quite odd to her, but she wanted to know a little more. So she says that she sent an email to the Historical Society to ask for additional information on the house. She also wanted to know about the people who used to live in the house before they bought it. She said after all the hard work they had been putting in, her and her husband were extremely tired. So when they went to bed that night, they fell asleep, and she said they were sleeping like bricks. Then all of a sudden she was awoken by her son, who was completely freaked out.
My son was really shaken up. He told us he thought that two children were watching him while he slept.
Listen, what do you mean there's two little boys in your room? Her and her husband convinced Logan that he was dreaming. They tell him that he was having a nightmare or something. It's all going to be okay. There's no way that there was two boys at the foot of your bed. And he tells his parents they were real. They looked real. A week later, Melissa responds to Aubrey's request for more information regarding the house. According to their records, the house was built in 1845 by Douglas and Rose Bauman. According to my logic, that house is 155 years too old to purchase. I'm just saying. It turns out that Douglas and Rose had 11 children. However, only 6 of those children survived into adulthood. She also found out that the causes of death were really unclear in the records, but she found out that there was a fire that destroyed the home, and she was thinking that maybe that's what happened to the children, that they were actually killed in the fire. She asked Melissa about the mask in the trunk. Melissa told her that back in the 1800s, some kids would wear those masks for Halloween, and that's probably what the children used those for. Aubrey says the very next day she was walking through the house and she heard her daughter having a conversation. So she stops in to ask her daughter, "Who are you talking to?" Which is normal. You would ask, "Oh, what's going on? Your brother's not in here, you know?" Her daughter was drawing a picture, and she had a picture of 2 boys. She says, "Oh, I was just talking to my friends, Elijah and Henry." And she shows her mom the picture. And in the picture, both boys have those burlap sack masks on. Honey, listen, if she had said that to me and I saw those pictures, I am already calling a realtor. Because she says that her and her husband and the lady from the Historical Society are the only people that knew about those masks. Her children had never heard about them or seen them. Her son had already seen 2 boys at the foot of his bed, watched him sleep, and now she is in here having a full conversation. Time to go. She asked her daughter why their faces were covered. Her daughter said they told her that they wear the mask so not to scare her because their faces were burned in a fire. Oh my God. Them kids didn't know about the fire. It's time to go. Listen, I'm sorry. This is a not safe situation. It's time to go. So Aubrey tells her husband, and he says maybe they just saw something on TV. He thinks that the kids are just using their imagination and coming up with this. But ask yourself, would you think that too? I mean, after you, the parent, you know about all these other situations and you know that the kids don't know about this, would you actually think that it was just their imagination and that they saw something on TV? Or would you be concerned? Aubrey said she wanted to be able to rationalize it and accept his thoughts, but she knew there was something going on and she wanted to know more. In the meantime, she decides to put a mini recorder in her children's room so that she could record what's happening in there, at least have a audio record. She says it's a good thing that she did because she hears her daughter screaming in the middle of the night. She runs into her daughter's room and her daughter says there was a lady there. She said there was a lady wearing a nightgown and she was covered in blood. That would put me in a bad place because as a parent, I would be freaking out, but at the same time, I wouldn't want my kid to know that I'm freaking out. But also, I want to do everything I can to comfort my baby. And the only way in my mind that I think that I could comfort my children would be to remove them from the house. I just don't know of anything else. Aubrey said that she just prayed that her daughter had had a bad dream. But then the next morning, she decided to listen to the audio.
Listen to me.
She said it was terrible and that she wrecked her brain trying to figure out what could this be. Personally, I don't think it takes a lot. You don't have to wreck your brain. You know what this is. Nobody else is in your house. Just you and your children. And you know that's not your children that you heard. She says that she calls Melissa at the Historical Society because she wants more information. Me, personally, I probably would have called Melissa, but after I got the kids out the house, they stayed. She says that that night she couldn't sleep. She spent the whole night tossing and turning. She said that she was extremely hot and sweaty, and her husband wakes her up.
These marks, how did you get them?
I don't know. My stomach hurts.
Oh my God!
Really? Really? She says there's no way she could deny something was going on. You think? Okay, so now's when you run the hell out of there screaming and hollering, because we have got to go. She says the next day she gets a package in the mail from Melissa at the Historical Society. She opens up the package and she finds out that the Bowman children did die in that house fire, but then the house was sold to Jeffrey and Lynn Carter. They found out that Jeffrey actually shot his wife in that house. Then after he shot her, he put her in the basement freezer where she remained for 6 months. And when he threw her in that freezer, she was not dead yet. So she froze to death in agony in that freezer. So there has been tons of tragedy that has happened in that house. And she believes that woman who was in her daughter's room, who carved up her stomach, was Lynn Carter. She says that she believes that Lynn was just desperate to be heard. She says after that day, they never saw Lynn again. However, the Bowman boys are still there, but they don't harass the kids and the kids aren't afraid of them. They think of them as good spirits, so they still live in the house. Listen, good spirits or not, I would try to convince the Bowman boys that they need to go into the light or we have to move. Listen, no, we don't need extra guests. That was just creepy. I mean, get down in the comments. Could you live with 2 boy ghosts in your house? She says that they're children, so she's not scared of them. But I have seen a lot of other paranormal shows where children ghosts can be quite deadly. I mean, really, would you stay? I think of myself as being a very strong person, but there are some things that are too scary and I won't deal with. I don't think I could. I'm willing to pack up and go. You know, I'm also willing to call Pastor Anderson, but you know, I don't know. The next story follows a guy named Kyle. Kyle lives in Oakdale, California, and this happens in September 1996. Kyle ran and operated a haunted house. That was his thing. He loved to scare people and he loved the business. You know, scaring people, haunted houses are great businesses, especially for a few months out of the year. You can make a ton of money scaring the heck out of people. He says that he has always wanted to buy an old abandoned house and turn it into an amazing haunted house. He thought it's a great business move. When he notices a sign, Kyle notices a sign stating that there's an old Oakdale sanitarium that was up for sale for $200,000, and it was 8,000 square feet. He said that was extremely cheap, and that was it. He was sold. He purchased the home. He says that it was a medical facility that was used for mentally ill patients and people who were dying of tuberculosis. He said it was basically a place where they just put people that were dying. On September 27th, 1996, a couple of days before the opening, he was in one of the rooms setting it up, for extreme scary moments, right? So he's in this room setting it up, and he's decided to go with the theme of sanitarium. So he sets the room up and he's looking at his accomplishments. He steps back with pride, and he is really excited because it looks great. So as he's admiring his handiwork, he says he feels someone breathing down his neck. And when he turns around, there's nobody there. He said it was like labored breathing, and he felt that it was a woman. Which, to me, I thought when I heard him say that, I was thinking, get down in the comments, but can you tell the difference of somebody's breathing if it's a girl or a guy? I don't know. But he said he could tell, and that he knew that it was a lady, and it made his hair stand on end. However, he said it definitely was not one of his finest moments. He does not believe in that stuff. So he decided to clear his mind and focus, because the place was going to be opening in a couple of days, and he had a ton of things that he needed to do before opening day. But he says right before opening day, his last job was to put cameras up in every single room of the haunted house, because he wanted to make sure that everyone was safe. He says it only takes one joker to ruin someone's experience. So 4 days later, on October 1st, they open up. He says it was great. He said it was $15 to get you in the door, and the customers could walk through every single room of the house and be absolutely creeped out. He says the first couple hours, everything went perfectly. The employees were satisfied, the customers were absolutely satisfied. Then he says out of nowhere, one of his employees, Kaylee, runs down to him screaming and hollering, totally freaked out. She says to him, there's somebody in there. She's hearing crazy sounds and noises like a woman is moaning and coughing, and she says she cannot deal with it. And he tells her maybe it's one of the guys being funny or playing a joke on you. However, he said he did take it seriously, because Kaylee had been working for him for 3 years, and she was by the book. She knew all the rules, and he knew that if she was shook, something was going on. He tells her to stay right there, hang tight, he'll go check it out.
I couldn't explain what I heard. I even reviewed the security cam footage. And there was no sign of anyone entering or leaving.
One of his other staff members, Kate, told him maybe you should call a paranormal investigator and get them in here to find out if there is really something in this place. So he says that he laughed it off because, again, he doesn't believe in this type of thing. However, he thought money, this man is driven a little bit by money. He says he thought this would be great advertisement if we call a local paranormal person, a psychic, a medium, or somebody, have them come over to the house, walk through the entire place and video record it. We could really rake it in. People would really be freaked out and want to come, which is true. That is a true tactic. That would work. Just not for me. I wouldn't go. So they go ahead and call her. He goes on with the idea. On the evening of October 4th, 1996, Victoria Evans, who is a psychic medium, she arrives there at the house to inspect the property for any potential spirits. She gets there before the haunted house opens, so this way she's not interfering with any of the customers or anything like that. Kyle walks around with her and has one of his staff members follow them around with a camera so that they could document the entire experience. He says the entire situation was pretty weird. As she's walking through the property, he said that he never expected what happened. Out of nowhere, Victoria tells him there is a spirit there named Sarah, who is an old woman, in a nightgown, and she's sitting in the corner. Uh-huh. Okay. What corner? Okay, I'm gonna be out at the car. That's me if I'm the staff member. Kyle can stay if he wants, but I am out. You are not paying me enough at this haunted house to put up with this. I'm just supposed to jump out and scare people from time to time. I am not supposed to be scared. Victoria tells them that Sarah was brought to the hospital as a mental patient, and she contracted tuberculosis while she was there, and then she was quarantined off by herself. And one night they came in and found her dead in the corner. So she died there in the corner, sad and alone. That is sad. Then out of nowhere, they heard something in the kitchen. So of course they all run to the kitchen. The cameraman is still filming this experience.
We heard something in the kitchen. It was that heavy breathing again.
What is happening?
See, if I was the cameraman, they wouldn't have gotten that footage because I would have left. But thank goodness he was braver than me. That's crazy. Kyle says that he is a trickster of all tricksters, and he knows when somebody is faking something, and he said that was absolutely real. He said he believes that Sarah just wanted to be seen, and he said at that moment he could almost feel her pain, and he was really scared. He said the word got out. I wonder if he helped that word get out. But he said the word got out about the girl living in the house, about the medium coming over, and that business boomed for a few years. And he said that after a while, his heart just wasn't in it anymore because he felt like he was being disrespectful to the dead. So at one point, he hung up a sign in the house that said it was Sarah's room. The producers asked him what happened to the haunted house, and he said that after a few years, bigger corporate haunted houses started popping up, and it was really hard for them to compete, so he went out of business. And he said that he didn't have the money to bring the home up to code, and there was a lot of neighbors complaining about the house, so the city finally took control over the house and tore it down. And he says he hopes wherever Sarah is that she's found some peace. And that was really freaky, right? You go out and purchase a haunted house to scare people and you end up getting scared out of your mind yourself. He said he wasn't feeling it anymore. So I'm thinking that he is no longer in the haunted house business, period, which, I can understand it. But I'm still into this stuff. Even if I'm freaked out, I just don't want any of it happening to me. But if anything should happen, you know me. I'm gonna call Pastor Anderson and a realtor and a U-Haul. I've got to go. Until next time, bye.